Now go to Mr. O'Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to begin by asking Ms. Hammack to follow up on a comment that she made. It seemed like you were providing us a choice between sustaining infrastructure that we might not need and readiness. And I would like you to sharpen that point, if you will, and tell us just exactly what's at stake in terms of the readiness.
What's at stake in readiness is our ability to fund training, our ability to ensure that soldiers are trained and equipped. So when we look at our budget, it is a balance. And as we're reducing force structure, we can't reduce force structure at the same pace as we're asked to reduce budgets. So then you look at reducing training. Well, we don't want to deploy an untrained soldier. Then you look at reducing equipment, but we don't want to under-equip a soldier. And so the last part of the budget pot is sustainment on our installations, and we've cut that to bare bones level. We are right now maintaining or sustaining our installations to life, health, safety levels.
Can you, you also touched upon this, but I wonder if you have some numbers to really drive it home. You talked about the cost of deferred maintenance. You know, if you're going to patch a leak in the roof in year 1 and you don't, and you wait till year 10, you've got to replace a whole roof. What in numbers, what is that costing us? That opportunity to fix it today versus waiting for it to metastasize, 10 years down the road.
Let me give you a scale of cost. If you think just bare sustainment in a building, and that's just the structure itself, is about 30 cents a square foot. If you don't patch that leak in the roof and you now have to replace the roof, that gets to about $30 a square foot. If you don't fix the roof in time and the structure decays and you have to replace it, that's $300 a square foot. So the lowest cost is to adequately sustain a building. But right now, we're $3 billion backlog with 5,500 major work orders in sustaining Army installations. We do not have the funding to sustain installations because we're putting our funding into training and equipping and maintaining the force so that we can do the missions asked of us by this nation. It's a tough decision. We're not maintaining the installations the way I would like to. We are not sustaining the installations the way I think we should. But we are deploying our soldiers the way I think we should.
We're supposed to be down to a force of 450,000 by 2017?
2018, 490
2018.
by the end of this year.
Okay.
And then by 2018 down to 450, which has risk associated with that.
What happens if we don't do anything, if we don't follow these recommendations, if we don't ultimately address the 18% of overcapacity that you have within the Army? And I guess what I'm getting at is, will there be a recommendation for a further drawdown so that the force that we do have is ready, albeit smaller, and at a level where we're sustaining the infrastructure? Is that potentially a choice that we're looking at down the road?
The risk right now, we are doing an analysis, a supplemental programmatic environmental assessment to see where we would take the cuts in manning to go down to a force of 450. Some bases we're evaluating cuts of 15,000 personnel, both uniform and civilian. So if you have a base of 30,000 and we take a cut of 15,000 in order to live within the resources we have, that means fully 50% of the structures on that base could be underutilized or empty or decaying to a point where they're failing. So they're of no use to the community and they're of no use to the Army. And if we ever have to surge, we'd have to rebuild and build new.
Thanks. That helps me to better understand this issue. And before I yield back to the chair, I just want to thank you for your accessibility and responsiveness on issues that we brought to your attention in the 2 years that I've been here. We really appreciate your support at Fort Bliss. With that, I yield back to the chair.